the coolest part of what I get to do is be around just the most awesome people on the planet, right? Like just sitting back and watching Elon Musk and President Trump talk about consequential political issues. Like, what am I doing here, right? Like, I didn't go to college. I'm a kid from Chicago. It really goes to show that this country still has meritocracy at its core. And I think that is a testament to why this country is so great, that if you prove yourself, if you have the right work ethic, if you have a little grit and resolve, you can end up around the kings of today.
Charlie Kirk, founder of TPUSA, my dude, you've built an actually enormous thing. Congratulations. Seriously amazing.
Thank you, Ben. It's great to see you, and thanks for being here. And yeah, it's been kind of a wild journey. You're one of the few people I could say you were at the foundational levels.
I remember 18-year-old Charlie Kirk going around the David Horowitz Freedom Center at the Breakers, trying to meet donors. And I remember saying to every one of those donors, this guy's going to be head of the RNC. And then you just basically built your own RNC.
Yeah, we kind of looked at the RNC and we said, maybe we could do something, in our own likeness and image. But no, glory be to God. It's amazing. And this election cycle was a big test for us. And we were thrilled with the result.
I have to say, it's actually incredible. So there was a tape of you from election night when it was announced that President Trump had won. And you got really emotional, and I was moved by it because I know how much work you've put in over the last 10 years just to get to this point and to be so influential in this election. And listen, you were handed an enormous responsibility, and that's a super hard thing. Yeah. They basically said, okay, why don't you just handle voter turnout? It's like, what in the world?
That's right.
So explain to me how you even build that sort of machine that leads to President Trump being reelected.
Well, it was a couple of things. We had President Trump's back throughout the primary and the whole process. So there weren't a lot of us that were kind of building this kind of machinery. And it turned out once we got to the general election, we must remember that the odds did not look great for his general election chances. From the lawfare to just kind of the party was not completely yet behind him. And so we volunteered. We're like, hey, we know how to do this on college campuses. We want to do some voter turnout stuff. And because of an FEC ruling that happened this last spring, you're allowed to coordinate with presidential campaigns. It was an election ruling. Actually, Mark Elias sued the FEC and won, and he thought it would help the Democrats. And so we started working with a great campaign team, Susie Wiles, James Blair, and we said, hey, especially in Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, some of these states who really have grassroots infrastructure, we believe that we can help the campaign and fill the gaps in and hire bodies. And so we went out on a hiring spree. We hired 1,500 full-time people in the key battleground states. Massive, like an enormous sum. And our hypothesis was that we do not have to take the electorate as is, meaning we can make the electorate more in a MAGA image. The traditional Republican orthodoxy was that you have to win swing voters, and they're the most important voters. And that's probably true in lower turnout elections. But in high turnout elections, you can actually change the electorate to be a little more masculine, a little more rural, a little more gun owning, a little more muscular class, a little more MAGA. So we said, how do we turn Trump supporters into voters? Because it's one thing to say that I like Donald Trump, I like the vibe, he's great, I watch him on TikTok, and then turn him into a voter. That's where we came in. So the second part of our hypothesis is that we need to dominate early voting month, which is that we as Republicans are foolish to not engage in those 30 days of early voting and act as if everyone should just show up on one day. And so we and Elon and a couple others on the outside built this force that was really underestimated and scoffed at and smeared and honestly slandered by the media. Oh, Charlie Kirk and Elon Musk kind of doing this voter turnout operation. It turns out that what we did worked. And it actually, the credit really goes to President Trump because it was the easiest get out the vote operation ever because we were talking to people that already liked him, that knew him, and his name ID had full saturation. We just needed to turn that support from yes, I like him to a ballot in a box. And we did that hundreds of thousands of times over a 30-day period in the key battleground states.
And not to get too much ahead of ourselves because this is an enormous victory, but looking forward 4 years, these were, as you say, many of these are low propensity voters who love President Trump, who's a unique political figure, the most unique political figure of our lifetime, a historic political figure, probably the most historic American political figure of the last century.
Yes.
Given that fact, are these people that can come out again? Are these people that you can reach again, duplicate again for another candidate, say J.D. Vance?
Yeah, and that's the question. And the answer is even if we only do some of it and then do better with high propensity voters, of which Donald Trump was actually doing worse with, then we could still have electoral success. So let's take J.D. Vance, for example, who a dear friend, I think he'd be a phenomenal president, is that he can definitely do better with higher propensity voters, more college educated, people that might not have liked Donald Trump's approach or tone or whatever excuse they would give. And even if we get some of those low propensity voters to engage in the process, you have the best of all worlds. And so what we have proven, though, is an Obama-style get-out-the-vote turnout machine can be built on the right. And that was always the question, is we as the right, like, can we win celebrity culture? Can we do the thing where we change the electorate? And it turns out, yes, we can. And that, again, we were just kind of benefiting from the draft of the president, right? Meaning that he had such a life force behind him, and so many people knew him and wanted to support him. And it was so illuminating because we hosted the president with Bobby Kennedy back in August when that endorsement happened. And
That was an amazing event. I mean, Bobby gave an amazing speech there.
it was terrific. And we were honored to be part of it. And we asked the campaign, we said, hey, can we do voter registration? Because, we don't want to step into it. I said, yeah, of course you can. So 18,000 people show up. We registered 900 first-time voters. 900 out of 18,000 were Trump supporters willing to stand in line in the Arizona heat for 3 hours, and they weren't registered to vote. And so all of a sudden we said, guys, not everyone who buys a MAGA hat is even registering to vote. And this is the forgotten country. These are people that make the country work: the plumbers, electricians, the welders, the carpenters, the police officers, the firefighters. And so our theory of the case worked. Everyone doubted us. And the secondary part of that was then dominate on social media. This is where the Trump campaign deserves enormous credit, from putting Donald Trump on Joe Rogan, on Theo Von, on these over-the-top type podcast situations that communicated to the people that were lower propensity. And so then by the time we knocked on the door, said, hey, we need to collect your ballot. Yeah, I just saw President Trump on Theo Von. I just saw him on Rogan. He's amazing. So we are going to the people that aren't watching CNN. They're not watching the traditional news channels and media. And we were able to then, in Arizona, chase over 200,000 ballots. Donald Trump won by 197,000 votes. In Wisconsin, chase 60,000 ballots of low propensity voters, won by 30,000 votes. And so we're not taking credit for anything, but we definitely helped play a role.
You played an enormous role. And I want to ask you sort of how you got to this point. So for people who don't know the story, I mean, I was here watching from the outside at a distance for a lot of the story, but for people who don't know sort of the Charlie Kirk Turning Point USA story, why don't you explain where this came from? Because it is an amazing story.
Yeah, it's an only in America story. And I'm an entrepreneur at heart. You know that. You done a great job building the Daily Wire, and I've watched from afar on that and kind of see this become a beast. And on the Turning Point USA side, I always felt like we could do culture better, and we could definitely do the college campus, high school outreach kind of space better, that it needs some disruption. And honestly, I hated losing, and I saw us losing, and I know you had a similar kind of drive to the left, and that we weren't playing on their cultural terms, and that we were constantly in retreat. And so the idea was that, can we bring entrepreneurial disruptive principles to a nonprofit space and create more chapters, create more high school experiences, create events like this? Can we do the grassroots thing better? And again, I have to give credit to President Trump. I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but he kind of created an environment where politics and culture were almost indecipherable, right? And the old expression, Andrew Breitbart, a phenomenal legend, mentor of yours, and I followed, at Breitbart.com after him, and he was just amazing. Politics flows downstream for culture. Now it's closer, like politics and culture are almost indistinguishable.
Yeah.
Exactly right. It's a merger. They're kind of one and the same, that you don't get politics without culture and culture without politics. And so we at Turning Point USA look at ourselves as a cultural transformation machine, from our influencer network, for some of the voices that we've helped elevate and lift up, from some of the things that we've done on college campuses and high school campuses. And it's just been 12 years of grinding, and a lot of people that thought we weren't going to last, or that they could try to take us out. And the team deserves just such enormous credit. And there's been so many different inflection points, and people that have poured into us, and donors that believed in us. And here we are today, thanks to the glory and grace of God, with 400,000 donors and hundreds of thousands of students. And this event, we have 20,000 people coming. They're thrilled to hear from you, by the way. And the president keynoting this on Sunday, which we consider to be, a great testament to the work and what we've done. And we can kind of look at the landscape now, and we can say we are, as an organization, one of the more important organizations on the right, and something where the left never took us seriously. And I think that's what really...
It's an understatement. I mean, you may be the most important organization on the right at this point. And when you look at also sort of what your life is like now, could you have imagined that that's what your life was going to look like when you were 18? I mean, first of all, I don't think anyone could have imagined Trump himself, right? I mean, he just came in literally from nowhere, wrecking ball, destroys everything in his wake. And you, on a daily basis, get to interact with President Trump. You get to interact with Elon Musk. It's a pretty cool life.
I mean, it's awesome, man. And it's just, I have to just say, thank you, God, for putting us in this situation. And you kind of know what it's like to be in the public eye. Obviously you do. And that's fine. That comes with a different life, a lot of death threats, a lot of derailments. The coolest part of what I get to do is be around just the most awesome people on the planet, right? Like just sitting back and watching Elon Musk and President Trump talk about consequential political issues. Like, what am I doing here, right? Like, I didn't go to college. I'm a kid from Chicago. I'm 31 years old. And it really goes to show that this country still has meritocracy at its core. I didn't go to a great school, obviously. I wasn't born to like a very prestigious family. Did a couple things, took a couple risks, turned out. And I think that is a testament to why this country is so great, that if you prove yourself, if you have the right work ethic, if you have a little bit of grit and resolve, you can end up, around the kings of today. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, I have to pinch myself all the time. I never could have imagined it. I mean, I remember the first time I met President Trump, I was like, my life is set. I met a president, right? I'm all good. And, now we are, in 2024 going into 2025, I have a great relationship with the president. He asked me my opinion on certain things here or there. And again, he believed in us as an organization and me when others did not. And that also speaks to him. He's fiercely loyal. We've had his back and he's had our back. And he's always believed in us. And now, everything here is largely testament to how he's poured into us.
So looking at the next couple of years, at least before the midterms, what are sort of the big things on your agenda item? What do you think the big things should be on the GOP agenda item? What are the things that are also doable? Because obviously, when it comes to politics, I think there's a tendency sometimes to say, well, if we just have sort of a Nietzschean will, we can ram through anything we want. But as we can see from even this week, it's a pretty complicated process. There's a lot of sausage making that goes on. So what are the things that as conservatives, we should all be looking forward to?
Yeah, it's not all will to power.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Thus spoke Zarathustra is a dangerous political manual, to say the least. I will say that as far as Turning Point Action, we have a very simple ask on the political side, which is our goal and our hope is that we want the Republican Party to be as conservative as its voters. So we think it's unhealthy if there are senators from deep red states that act as if they are metropolitan Rockefeller Republicans. And the first kind of test of this is, can Donald Trump get his cabinet, right? Absent any bombshell, earth-shattering stuff, does an incoming president who won a popular vote, an electoral vote landslide, and won some of these states by 20 or 30 points, can he earn the trust of senators that keep on going back to the well every 6 years from their Republican voters saying, keep on giving me political power? We at Turning Point Action think we're uniquely positioned to help make that case because we are not born out of the Republican Party. We're an outside group. We're obviously loyal to the president. And it's going to be a test of, can these senators who might get a little wobbly when it comes to people like Tulsi Gabbard or Bobby Kennedy or Pete Hegseth, can they say yes and confirm them? We think yes, and we're seeing good directional energy there. And Kash Patel, I would definitely add to that list. So we want to just try to make the Republican Party get into alignment with its voters. Very simple and easy ask. And then beyond that, we want to try to change the philosophy of the Republican Party to be a party to win and win long-term, invest in long-term infrastructure, invest on it on the ground, and then accelerate this kind of cultural transformation that we've seen. I think we're entering a golden era of this country. I think we're going to see amazing economic growth. I think we're going to finally have our allies back in many different ways. I think we're going to have a secure southern border. I think we're going to deregulate the economy. I think we're going to be able to have a mass deportation force. I think we're going to see all these promises made and promises kept. And my hope is that we can kind of make the Democrat Party a minoritarian party for a generation, the same way FDR made the Republican Party a minority party for 15 to 20 years. And it's really on us. It's for us to screw up, to be honest, and for us to mess up. And then from there, we have to do something dramatic with education. That's the core of everything we do at Turning Point USA.